Good evening and welcome to the Millis School Committee's September 11, 2018 School Committee meeting. My name is Stephen Catalano. I am the chair. I want to do a roll call. Kerry Roach, secretary.
Here.
Robin Briggs.
Here.
Mark Conroy.
Here.
Denise Gibbons.
Here.
Superintendent Gustafson.
Here.
There are no teacher reps and no student reps at this time. Jody, do we have anyone in open session?
We do not.
Okay. I want to make an announcement that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All times are approximate on the agenda. We have no one for open session. We have two action items. The first action item is to consideration to approve the 8:30 school committee meeting minutes.
So
I have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Conroy,
I make a motion that we approve the August 30, 2018 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The second action item is the consideration to approve the disposal of van 22. Nancy?
In your packets, you have a memo from our Director of Transportation, Mary Jane Driscoll. This is a van that is no longer needed and has high mileage, almost 180,000 miles. It's a 2002 Dodge Caravan, and we would like to you to vote to allow us to dispose of it.
Is that the red van?
I don't know the
Maroon?
color. I don't know the color.
Okay. I was thinking maybe that was. Okay. There's been we need to dispose all property, all capital items need to be disposed of at the vote of us when they're at the end of their useful life. Either we destroy them, or even if they're sold or donated, we have to vote the removal of them from our inventory. So can I get a motion?
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I make a motion that we dispose of van 22, 2002 Dodge Caravan with 100,079, 211 miles, and its VIN number is 1B46P25322B648355.
Second.
A motion's been moved and seconded. Before we vote, I think it's appropriate to kind of call out that this van has been on the road for a long, long period of time, and we got 179,000 miles on it for a van that probably shouldn't have had 179,000 miles on it. And so the administrators have worked very hard, in the transportation department have worked very hard at keeping vans on the road and really pushing their useful life. So thanks for that. We're happy to report that there are newer vans in the stock, and we're keeping on top of them so we don't get to the point of having a 16-year-old van with close to 200,000 miles. Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Please dispose of.
Thank you.
Bernadette, do you? I know you just got here.
Yes, I want to minute something up. Yeah, I just need to get my thoughts.
Sure. So I'm
I
sorry.
apologize, I didn't realize that we changed the time.
And you know what? I realized that as you were walking in early for the 7:30 meeting that we have moved the meeting. We had a late start anyways. We were in executive session, so we're about 15-20 minutes late. So do you want us to come back to you?
No, I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go?
Very-
Don't worry about
Okay.
it.
Sorry once again for not letting you know about that.
All schools have a half day on September 19th. The special education is having an open house on October 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Clyde Brown School. And we would like to welcome our new district BCBA. At Clyde Brown, they have started the year well. They have a new special educator and a new preschool teacher. They're getting ready for their new building, and the special ed rep participated with classroom teacher reps. They all picked out new furniture for their part of the selection process for the new building, so they were very excited about that. Jennifer McGuire in the middle school took a class of sixth graders, or a group of sixth graders, to the Grafton Community Harvest Project. They picked peppers, tomatoes, and cherry tomatoes. And they listened to a talk about the nutritional benefits of eating more fresh fruits and vegetables. And the harvested food that they helped to pick will be donated to pantries. They contributed to over 5,000 servings of vegetables that have been harvested so far this season. And the high school has an outdoor pursuits class that is planning a field trip to the Norfolk County Sheriff's Department on September 27th and 28th. And they'll get more information as it gets closer. The ninth grade class has elections. The forms are due to Miss Yamba by 2:30 p.m. this Friday. And speeches and voting will be held on Monday, September 17th. All students are encouraged to participate. And the high school open house is September 13th. That's this Thursday evening, starting at 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report. September enrollment.
In your packets, you have the update on, for September on our enrollment. Please keep in mind that September, capturing accurate numbers, it always changes quite a bit from September to October. But overall, the district, pardon me while I grab that page. Overall, the district is down in enrollment by about 65 students. We have smaller class sizes going through. The new normal class size for a grade level is around 80. You can see that Clyde Brown Elementary stayed approximately the same because we had about 100, or actually 97 students going into first grade from kindergarten. We currently have 81 kindergartners, 74 of them in a full-day program, 7 of them in the half-day. At the middle school, there are 32 fewer students. And at the high school, we had a large graduating class of, well, relatively large, of 109 students. And that is replaced by a small class of grade 9 students, 75 grade 9 students. Of the students, approximately 30 students that are left Millis between grade 8 and grade 9, 22 of them went to Tri-County. We often get a few of those students back in October, November, December. Last year we had 16 students go out to Tri-County per our January count. 4 went to Norfolk Aggie. 3 students moved away from Millis. 3 went to a private school, and 2 are new out-of-district placements. 1 student also was choicing here from another district and has returned. 5 new students registered in grade 9. Also in your packets, you
Well, actually, hold on a second. Mr. Conroy?
So I think I think we need to monitor how many of these kids, if anybody, comes back. Last year, during the budget process, we found we were somewhat surprised because there was a huge increase in our tuition due to Tri-County, an increase north of $100,000, and that was because we had a net increase of 10 kids at Tri-County when they did their budget for this year. Based on another additional 20 going over, if we've got another net increase of 10 kids, that's another $100,000 that will not be available to us as a district. Also, with 30 kids overall leaving, that will hurt us in the Chapter 70 formula because there is a high variable cost value assigned to student enrollment. I think it's somewhere around $10,000. So, you know, right now we're looking at enrollment, and again, they do everything off of October, I think, when they do the Chapter 70 formula. So we have, you know, next month, but we've lost 77 students, $10,000 apiece in the Chapter 70 formula. It's not helpful. So as we monitor this over the next month or two, having an idea of what that might mean when we come into the FY20 budget process will be good. Nancy, I know we've talked about it here and every so often. Did we do any exit interviews, or are they any in process, especially with that 9th to 30? Last year we had 20 kids leave. You know, the year before was 20, the year before that. It's been as low as, you know, the 5 years before that, it was more like 9 or 10 would leave from 8th to 9th grade. The last two, you know, now we're jumping into the 20 and now 30 range. So I don't know if we've done any, I mean, some of it is moving, whatever, but if we're doing any kind of exit interviews on finding out what might be pulling people, whether we can do anything about it, I don't know, but.
We have some anecdotal evidence, but have not done a formal survey or calling of parents to ask why, you know, what attracted them. I remember doing that, though, 10 years ago, 11 years ago when I joined the district, because it was a concern back at that time as well. And so we can either construct a survey, send it to families,
Yeah, I mean,
or call.
if we know who those 30 are,
Yes, we
we
do.
could probably maybe send them send them a Survey Monkey, and
That way we can analyze the results.
I think the people that moved out of town, we shouldn't bother them.
True.
They're gone.
that's fair.
They've moved, but.
And even
the people
out
are still
of
living in town.
district placements, we probably
Right.
Yes, those
But-
Target the kids that went to private school or Tri-County, that
or
group.
Norfolk
And Aggie.
Yeah,
Yep,
And then the 3 privates as well?
yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
And then one other question.
Would the
just-
committee like to review that before we send it out, or see a draft
Sure,
of proposal?
sure. I don't think we have to wait till the next meeting if you wanted to just send it out to us, because we're not voting on that, so if you wanted to send it to us, so, yeah. Yes, please.
And then just one other question, because I know we talked about it during the budget process. The half-day kindergarten, we left the half-day as a half-day?
No, the 7 students are in the full-day programs. We worked with families and extended the time the students are staying, and they are, I can ask Mr. Phelps to do an update on that when he does his school improvement plan, or in a memo for you. He contacted every family personally to talk to them about the process and the half-day program.
Yeah, I think it would be good, because I know when we had talked about it originally, we had requested that we had some kind of an idea of how that was logistically going to be implemented, if it was going to be implemented, because we now have, going back in history, the half-day was half-day and the full day was a full day, and we had talked about they were different curriculums, but they got the same, and now
Right.
just trying to understand, I thought we had,
If it's okay, I think it's appropriate for him to update with his school improvement plan. I do know that he worked the schedule so that the academics are in the morning, and the some of the specials are in the afternoon, many of the specials. So I think I'll ask him to include that in his update for you.
yeah, I'd just be curious, when we had just the half-day, if they had specials in the half-day and now those kids aren't getting the specials, or did they not get specials?
Well, I'll I'll ask him
Okay.
to update you. I do know, and we gave families options of staying through recess and lunch as well, because it had no impact on the budget, and those students could benefit from the social emotional aspects of recess and lunch. So we will
But then
update
are
the
we-
committee on that.
And I'd be interested in the time difference then for that option, because now we are charging for full day, and yet we're letting kids who signed up for half day stay. How much of the day are they staying for free?
And I'm
when
not
we're
sure
char-
how many families opted to that,
So instead of incorporating it in the school improvement plan, why don't you have Jason write you a memo, and then you can share that memo with us at the next meeting. I mean, he can talk about it, but I think treating it as a separate issue.
I think programmatically, we're confident that it's a very good program and that the students are receiving what they need. So, but I'll ask him to update you in a memo on the specifics.
Okay. Is that it, Mark?
Yep.
Anyone else with any questions about the enrollment? Okay. Next, Nancy, is Fall Town.
Yeah, before I move to the warrant article, I'd like to update the committee on, and the public on three things. The school committee is invited next Monday between 5 and 7:30 to a meet and greet with Carol Johnston, the finalist for the town finance director, over in Mike Kaczynski's office. It will need to be only 2 members at a time, so we don't have a quorum. She is then scheduled to be at the Board of Selectmen on September 24th at their meeting for them to act upon that. The Department of Education has been sending some people our way to learn about how we are personalizing learning, and the commissioner will visit on October 11th to visit our middle school, meet with teachers and students, is what he requested, to see the good things going on or the bad things going on, to do a visit. But they, we really look forward to it. Commissioner Riley is a breath of fresh air to everybody, and the field is, we're all excited about what he brings to that position. Millis has been invited to speak or present at 2 events, statewide events, one of which is the Massachusetts School Committee Conference that occurs in November. So we'll talk about if any of the members are able to go to that. I believe November 8th is the date on that. I'll get more information. And we're asked to speak on what we're doing around personalized learning. And we will be profiled through the MAPLE consortium, which is the Massachusetts Personalized Learning Educational Technology Consortium. We will be profiled as a bright spot in how we use technology to personalize learning. And the other thing is that we're starting at Clyde Brown the furniture and technology discussion meetings with staff, which are very exciting. And they have a full schedule so that all teachers get input. I believe samples have arrived or are arriving very soon for them to see some of the furniture samples. So that's a very exciting process. Also in your packets, you have a memo regarding some more good news that we received through the efforts of Representative David Linsky, a $60,000 grant earmarked for improvements to our auditorium. We thank Representative Linsky very much for this, and it is specifically this new earmark grant is only for the auditorium. Terry Wiggin, our business director, has outlined some options for use of the previous earmark money, which is designated for repairs. We received that last March, if you remember. And initially, we had talked about it as a way to repay the town for the $61,000 in air quality testing costs. And after discussion with Mike Kaczynski and their consultant, Hannah York, the suggestion is that rather than having it go back to free cash, that the new thinking is on the part of the town that capital warrants that aren't fully used would then roll into the next set of capital items that need funding. So we apologize for the late notice. We just heard about this and were able to get the memo out after speaking with Mike Kaczynski yesterday, and then Terry followed up today. So this gives us some options as to what to use that earmark money for that Terry lays out in the memo. And basically, the committee had voted, and we included in your packet again the warrants we had submitted from our last meeting. And we had submitted those to the town administrator. But now with this new $60,000 earmarked for the auditorium, we recommend that that be applied to the replacement of the lights in the auditorium, which had a price tag of about $104,000, $605,000. That is a Tetra Tech number, so we're in the process of seeking more accurate estimates for the RFP that will go out. But it would reduce the ask at town meeting for that, for the $60,000 from the earmarked for the auditorium. And then his notes in the in red, I believe you received that and it is in red, that we could apply the other earmark money to any of the other warrant articles, which are the phone intercom PA system replacement to be voiceover at the middle high school, the library carpeting, the locker replacement plan, or furniture replacement plan. I believe it is designated for repairs, so the furniture is not a good fit because it's
It's not a repair.
it's not a repair, it's furniture. So here's a bigger version.
So a couple things. One, I appreciate that the acting finance director and the town administrator stated that they don't need the $61,000, but I would like something from them in writing stating that this is the will of the town side is to say that we do not need to pay that $61,000 back, because that's what we voted as a committee. So we're not going to fight them on it, but we'd like some sort of assurance that it's memorialized that this is what they want, or this is what they're saying we can do. So that's a good thing. So the reality is we have $137,000 in earmark funds to reduce our warrant, either reduce the amount requested or potentially eliminate one of the warrants in total.
I have one question that I'm a little confused on, and maybe we can get more clarity too. But so, are these funds in a funding source that we as a school committee can dictate how they're spent?
Correct.
So
it comes through the Department of Education and is managed like a grant.
So So none of this money will be subject to approval at town meeting?
Correct. I believe we have 1 year from receiving notice last March of the original 150,000 until this March. So it should be a project that can be completed and invoiced within
By
that time
March.
period, by March. So that's what we spoke with John Engler and Terry Wiggins about to make sure that is true. The other piece he mentions in there, originally we had approved some HVAC and air conditioning replacement within the original earmark. We did some, because a year ago in the summer we had significant issues with some of the air conditioning, but they did repairs and they don't think they need to replace it at this time. Also, Mr. Engler is thinking and looking toward next year when we have perhaps some of the units from Clyde Brown that can come over and might be, we might be able to use them as replacement or if we need to. But what he tells me currently, and we've experienced it in central office, is right now the air conditioning is working well and we don't need what was voted as $16,500 of the earmark money to go toward that. So that's the other little piece of it we can reallocate toward one of our capital needs right now.
So I have an initial thought, and just to start the conversation. The 60,000 that just came in is earmarked specifically for the auditorium. We have another $61,000 of the earmark funds that has to be used in the school but is not specific to the auditorium. We could offset the ask for the electrical service and distribution by 60 grand, but that's not a guarantee that it's going to be passed. Just an initial thought. I say we put the 60 and the 61 together and bang out the electrical service and the distribution, pay that off.
Yep.
We could then take the remaining, because there's an additional 16 and a half. We could then buy furniture, or the locker rooms, actually
Can't buy
furniture.
furniture.
Locker rooms.
Lockers.
Lockers,
Do the
because
lockers,
that's
yeah.
school. So we could do the lockers, and then what we're doing is
We can.
we're stripping, we're stripping our ass down, and we may get to the point where we can get that $100,000 voice over IP intercom system. So that's just one thought, just throwing it out there to start, because I don't like the idea of saying
Yeah.
we only need
Right.
40,000, and then if they
Right.
say we're not going to vote for that,
No, I
and then
agree
are we
with
now
that.
tied up?
Yeah, I
I agree with that. If
I
we can bang that high ticket item and and then the auditorium's pretty much done.
Right.
No,
right?
the seats.
Well, but we've
We
already
already
funded
paid for the
that.
seats.
Have we paid for all of the seats?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we
We
found the
did.
money last year
Yeah.
to pay for
We
all
need to
of
get
that.
those seats going in before town meeting, right?
Yeah.
As a reminder.
Mr.
Not
Engler,
the fall,
update
not the fall town meeting.
the Springtown meeting,
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is my thought.
I
I'm not,
would support that. I agree. That's a
Denise,
good
any
idea.
thoughts?
I agree.
Robin?
I agree.
So I just have a couple of
Sure.
questions for clarity. So if this, Mr. Representative Linsky never gave us this additional $60,000, would this 61,
That would come back to us.
so there would never have been this discussion for this 61,000 to be giving back or the 16,000 to be given back?
No,
I guess
it's,
my question is, like, if this never became available, would we have updated the HVAC with that 16,000 still, or would that discussion have been had? Now we're deciding, oh, we don't actually need that, so you can have this money back.
no,
because of
that
this.
money was our, so we got $150,000 from the state, thanks to the generosity and the advocacy of Representative Linsky.
Right,
Be-
and that's
And
fantastic.
so we got this money earmarked to us to be used in facilities.
Okay.
Yes.
And we,
Well, we got it in response to the
Reimbursement.
Right,
reimbursement.
$61,000.
Reimbursement for the cost
But then
for
there was
the-
extra
for
money
the
in
air
there.
quality issues. Right.
There was extra money.
Right, there was extra money, but the original 150 was a reimbursement to us for the air quality.
That
issues
61,000 specifically was the cost of air quality testing. We spent a tremendous amount of money
Okay.
over a short period of time on air quality testing, and actually it stretched out. So we were going to reimburse the town. We're now hearing that they don't need the reimbursement they're giving us back. We're going to get something in writing stating that. And so now this is an additional $60,000. I think Representative Linsky has spent enough time in our auditorium to realize that it needs some help.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what happened at the end of the budget cycle. It's not for us to question, but he's identified some money. So that
that's on top of the
61,000 and that 16.5 was the original part of the original 150.
Okay. And then now there's an additional 60.
That's, yes, above and beyond.
Okay. I guess so. The question that I had was, this all is happening really quickly, and we had to go through, or Terry went through and looked at all these options only because they're giving us an additional 60,000. So would we be having this discussion if that wasn't on the
No, we got
offer?
60,000 and then we found out that on top of that, we have 61 and 16.5.
Okay.
And that came about due to the conversations with the town administrator.
Okay.
I do think, for example, what was voted last year at the end of the year as the use for the original earmark money, when something came up and we realized, okay, this is no longer needed, we would have brought that to the committee. The HVAC no longer needed. What would you like to
Anyway, okay.
apply
Yeah,
That-
I didn't know if
to?
he was like, oh, we don't really need this. We can
No.
use this for that, trying to like
No,
push something
that
aside.
happens. We allocate money or we start a project and then once they get into the project, they realize it either wasn't as bad as it initially thought,
Okay.
or they could, instead of replace, they could repair
Yep. Okay.
or do something along that lines.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes you don't know until you start pulling ceiling fans
Yeah,
down
no,
or
for
ceiling
sure,
stuff down,
for
right.
sure.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
So we actually.
Mr.
Yeah,
Conrad.
go ahead.
So I just want to.
I turned you on.
Thank you. So I'm perfectly fine with the proposal and knocking our warrant articles off. I am concerned about the concept that the town administrator is just deciding that they don't need the 61,000 and that they're automatically taking old warrant articles. I get it, they're unspent warrant articles, and they're immediately deciding that they're going to go to new warrant articles because specifically the 61,000 at a town meeting, and I don't remember the exact funding source, but it was either free cash or stabilization funds that were used to pay for the 60,000 that we needed, with the expectation that it was going to be
Yes.
returned to that source. So I appreciate it, but I also just want to make sure that, because regardless, this turning back of the warrant articles into free cash was a source of free cash that we rely on just as much as municipal
Sure.
articles. I just don't want to be I mean, if we are, we are, but, and if that's the
I had
approach.
this conversation with the superintendent this afternoon. This was my concern as well. I don't want to push and shove that we don't get the money, but I want to make sure that it is crystal clear. So when the FinCom or someone starts looking, saying, where's the 61,000? And I'm not trying to position Mr. Gazinski, but I want to make sure we're getting our cover here that the acting finance director and the town administrator have clearly articulated in writing that this money can come back to the schools. Because I don't want to get into a problem where someone's pointing to us on town meeting floor or in a FinCom meeting ahead of town meeting saying, where's the money? I don't want to not get the money, but I want to make sure it's done
And
above
everybody-
board and correctly, so there are no questions later on.
I have a question.
Is your thing on?
It is. As much as I would like for the district to have the funds, is it not the right course for it to go back into free cash? And then get divvied out? And so I would not want us to be the ones that, even though we are the beneficiary of it,
Sure.
we didn't start it, but I would happily support a bit of pushback to town hall, or listen, I know we could use the money,
Sure.
but
I am usually one of the first ones who argues to make sure that under any funding formula or any historical process that the school gets its appropriate share consistent with what we do historically. I just want to make sure that if there was an implied, and it wasn't implied, it was an explicit statement that if we got money back from the state, we would replenish what we put back, that we voted to do that, that both Board of Selectmen, FinCom, and everybody is aware that that money's not going to free cash.
Nancy, do you have the flavor of this conversation to carry back to Mr. Gazinski?
Yes, and if I may, just one other piece of information. The original earmark money that David Linsky proposed for us in the legislature that was approved the year following our air quality testing and the repairs we had to make to the roof with the temporary tarps and all the ceiling tiles we had to replace, etc. That original earmark money was then rescinded in the governor's 9C cuts that year, so it never came to us. So a nice surprise was the following year he resubmitted it, and it came back not specifically tied at all to air quality, but as repairs. And so that is what we received word on last March. So there was a time period lag between those two, and I
But
just
there was a
wanted-
cost to the town.
Yes,
that-
I just wanted the committee to know about that.
Okay. Are we good with that?
Yes.
So, if we can get assurances that this is what the town administrator and finance director want, and there are no repercussions, we should. When do we have to submit these warrants? Isn't it tomorrow?
The warrant is open now. They
Till
opened
when?
it last night, and it, I believe, is open for 2 weeks.
So we have another meeting
20th.
before it closes.
We meet the day after it closes, I believe.
Again, we can leave them all on,
Yeah, I would
and
leave
we
them
can
all on.
always go and say, we're going to,
Okay.
Yeah.
we've decided we're going to use this, we've clarified all this, we've got this money.
Have you
that-
submitted
that
this
we're
to them
gonna-
yet?
That we're going to
The
apply.
second one, no.
No, this is, the numbers are still the same. He didn't adjust the
Yes,
numbers.
correct. We submitted
Okay,
it.
so they're there. So we'll get
And
clarification, and then we
just
can
pull
reach
one or
out,
two off if we
and we
want.
can just update numbers, because we're not updating projects.
Right.
We're not updating kind of the priority.
And if anything, we would just be withdrawing
Right.
because we're
That's
found
right.
money for
Because we
One or
we
two.
literally could get rid of
3 and
the
4.
electrical service distribution, and then I've heard through the grapevine that lockers are important, and lockers.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Yes.
just opine a little bit, the number one priority is the voice over for safety reasons, the voice over IP, intercom, phone system, et cetera. And our thinking on that, why to apply it to that one, is so that it has a greater chance of passing at town meeting because the price tag would be less. But I understand the pros and cons.
But
of
there's a
applying
risk that if it
elsewhere.
doesn't get passed, are we now tying up?
We would have to bring it back to the committee to reallocate it towards something else. So
Which
it would
wouldn't
be
give us
another.
much time to then get
Yep.
it executed and completed by March, though, right?
Correct, yeah. And that would, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Thank Terry for another clear, can I keep this one?
Yeah.
Clear and concise memo. I know you guys worked on that today. Okay, a couple under the chairman's report. First and foremost, let's do a technical kind of look at school committee dates. So right now, if you look at the bottom of the agenda, the only date that we have on the books is September 25th. So going forward, we have to make decisions about our October meetings because there's two different tracks that we can take. And then another one would be our March and April and May meetings. If we went out 4 or 5 months, we could always reevaluate depending on how budget season goes and negotiation season go. We may not be able, well, I think what we should try to do right now is get through December at a minimum. So the question is, one thing that we talked about as a committee is these, I don't know what, the showcase, for the lack of a better term, a showcase night where the schools come in and showcase some educational and innovative things that are going on. They have been very well received. I've enjoyed them thoroughly. I think all the school committee members have enjoyed them. Part of the problem is we're trying to squeeze in a decent amount of kids and parents in here on meetings that have multiple agenda items, and I'm not sure, it would be nice to give them a little bit more time to see maybe more options. So one of the things that we've talked about as a committee is on certain months adding an additional day. And October is a long month, especially on the sequence that we're on, where we're meeting tonight and then on the 25th. So is there a question, and I probably should have polled you ahead of time, but is there any desire or, more importantly, flexibility in your schedules to do 3 meetings in October? Because we're limited in November, right, because of the holiday. We're limited in December. So I think if we can do one, actually the question is, before we go too much further, would you be able to adjust a showcase or do a showcase in October, or is that too soon?
I do think we absolutely could showcase some of the great things
It's not
happening.
forcing you to
No.
do it. No.
The committee does need to hear and vote to approve the school improvement plans and the district improvement plan, and we tend to do those in October.
Well, we're having 3 meetings in October.
Yeah, so we have three school improvement plans and the district improvement plan as well.
So we could do 2 a night,
2 a night, yep. And then
20
have a-
20-minute highlighted conversations.
I think a showcase, if it were later in October, might give people a little more time.
Okay.
Or even, it could be a November meeting.
We could adjust.
Whatever you,
We could just do 3 business meetings in October and then do,
have a November one dedicated to a showcase.
would the November 20th, which is right ahead of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
is that not a good one?
That's
Too much
fine.
travel and stuff.
That's
I was just going to
fine.
say, make it a light meeting before we go off, but I don't- Mark's coming back. So how do people feel? Are you okay with 3? Carrie, I know you have some travel stuff coming up. Are you
And I
okay?
don't know the dates yet.
Okay.
So I'll try to work around whatever meetings that we put on the books.
Are you okay with 3, though?
Yeah.
In concept?
Yeah,
Robin?
that's fine.
Denise?
I am. The only thing I would ask is if we could avoid the 16th, only because the ESBC has been sort of taking that
Sure.
third
That's fine.
Tuesday of the month.
Yes.
Mark,
Right.
you okay in concept with 3?
Yes. If we're going to do the 2nd, though, I would not be able to start till 7:30.
Okay. We can adjust that. I mean, so do we want to do, so the 16th is out. Do we want to do the 2nd, the 9th, and the 23rd? I'd like to avoid the 30th.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second
Is that-
7:30 start and the other 2 are.
The 2nd would be a 7:30 start, or we could start at 7 and Mark would just be right. You want to just do it that way, Mark? Why don't we keep, let's keep with the 7. and Mark, Mr. Conroy will be running late. I'm sure there'll be a Google Doc conversation that will lead us to 7:15 anyways. So we're meeting on the 25th of September. We're then meeting on October 2nd, October 9th, and October 23rd. Jody, you good with that?
Yep.
Any issues with the 6th or the 20th? Okay, so November is set. And then December 4th and 18th. Good, everyone?
As far as I know.
And I know travel schedules, we don't have them and things come
Yeah.
up. January, yeah, that would be the first possible day we could meet, right? The first day, it would be a holiday.
Right.
So the 8th, the 22nd. The one thing that we'd want to think about is depending when budget cycle starts, we may need, maybe not a showcase meeting, but we may need a third meeting in one of these, it would probably work better in January than it would in February. Actually, no, we could do it.
Yeah, we can do November.
We could, why don't we wait on adding why don't we keep the January and the February meetings as is, and then we wait until the start of budget cycle to see where we add. I think let's just be ahead of it instead of meeting until 11:30, quarter of 12. Let's add a third meeting one of those months. And then, Jody, I know you wanted the full calendar, but can we stop for February for now and then see and regroup in January to get the rest of the year? That'll give you enough advance notice for the students and teachers, right, Nance? Is that?
So I can post up to February.
Yes, I would post all the way through February.
Do you want me to put the tentative dates for March, April, May, and June on the website, or do you want me to leave them to be determined on the website?
Leave it to be determined for now, and we'll circle back to that after the first of the year. And then if something comes up and we have a major change or we need to change something, we'll have a conversation. All right, is that good on the
Sounds
calendar?
good.
Okay.
Yep.
The naming of the elementary school. I received a message from the elementary school building committee with an incredibly tight deadline of, are we renaming the elementary school? And I told the representative from the elementary school building committee that we had some discussion initially, and it felt like there was no real burning desire to change the name of the school. We had talked about a process, and quite honestly, that process, we didn't start that process. And now I think we're at a point where that process, we don't have enough time for the process. So unless people have changed their thought process and that there's a burning desire to either one, change the name of the school, or two, run an expedited process to try to determine if the community wants to change the name of the school, I think the school probably should remain Clyde Brown. I want to hear your thoughts. And the other piece is, I know the school's being constructed, and there's nothing to say that we can't change the name of the school at another date. Obviously, it would appear to make more sense to do it when the school's being open, but we may have lost some of that opportunity. Once again, I don't think there was a burning desire. I don't recall in my 8 years of being on the committee anyone coming forward with a suggestion for a new name or a request to name it, nor in any of the meetings that hundreds of pieces of communication or meetings around the building of the new school. I don't think that once ever came up. It was never discussed. I'm not saying that that is a perfect system, but part of it is if we thought that there were people out there clamoring to change the name of the school, it would probably bubble up. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to kind of gloss over the fact that we didn't run a process. So I'd like to open this up for just a quick discussion. Denise?
So I'll take some responsibility because I was going to initiate the process in
There's
the
no
spring.
responsibility to take.
but did not, so now we are here. We also didn't realize that there was a deadline of a month from now, so there was never any deadline given to us.
No, I
So
know.
now that we are here, I would agree with you. I don't think if we were to try and squeeze in a process in a 3-week time period, I don't think we would be able to A, do it justice, or B, satisfy any of the stakeholders in this, ourselves or the community. So I concur with what you said in all of the discussion. I haven't heard any people have asked the question as to whether it will be renamed or not. No one has come forward with a burning desire to rename it or even a suggestion of a new name.
Right.
So with that, I would agree with what you said, where not moving forward with a name change, remain as is.
Mr. Conroy?
I would agree with that. To be honest, I think I can't imagine the suggestions of what it would be renamed to. So I think it was potentially difficult for everyone to jump over and renaming it anyway. Not that it wouldn't have been done, but given the timeline, it's not worth.
And once again, if there's a burning desire at another date, it's letters on the school.
Yeah.
So we could find that in our budget. Mr. Linsky could give us some more money and earmark some. That was a joke. Go ahead. Robin, any?
I agree with what you're saying. I haven't heard anyone that wants to call it something different.
I guess my only question is what's the tight timeline? Is it signage?
It's literally to order letters.
Signage? Yeah.
Yep.
These letters they take a while to make. That's what the sentiment of the email that I got. And that we should have done this a long time ago, and shame on us. So we're now doing it. And I told the chair, I saw him on a morning walk, that I would give him an answer on how we were going to proceed after tonight's meeting. And if the will of the committee is still the same, to maintain the Clyde F. Brown School, I think that's where we're at. Is that where we're at?
I'm
We don't
good
need to
with
have a
that.
vote, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Mr. Chair, if I may opine too, it's
Oh,
just...
yeah,
No,
you know
no.
what, Nancy? I
No,
apologize.
No, it's okay.
If you say you want to rename it now, we're
No,
gonna-
I agree with everything you've all said, but I also have just an additional reason is we really like Clyde Brown Bears as our mascot. So,
True. That's a good
Brown
point. What would we
bears.
do without the bear?
yeah.
That is the most convincing argument. I'm gonna take a picture of a bear and send it and say we're the Clyde Brown Bears. Okay. And then lastly is the school committee received a petition from a group of parents sent to us in July of this year. And the petition says, "We, the undersigned parents/guardians of students in the Millis School District, request that the school committee and administration review the use of standard-based report cards in the middle school. We make this request based upon our experience with standard-based report cards, which have proven to be demotivating for our children. In addition, we believe the standard-based report cards do not provide the necessary foundation to prepare students for high school letter grade report cards." And it is signed by roughly 25 residents of Millis, who I assume all have children in the Millis Public Schools. So
Not
that-
all. No,
Not all?
no.
Okay. Signed by residents.
Yeah.
And anyone's entitled to send a petition. So as a committee, we need to have some sort of response to not only the individuals that sent this petition, but also just as they raised up an issue to us that we have been working with around a couple policy changes based on the movement of standard-based report cards. And as a committee, I think it's important for us, for one, for the committee to be educated, and then two, to provide an opportunity to educate not only the residents who sign a petition, but all parents of students in the Millis Public Schools. So my thought is Nancy and her administrative team form some sort of working group, task force, I don't know what we want to call it, but form a working group that looks at this issue. And I think if we wanted to boil down the issue, I think one of it is communication with parents of what is going on right now. From a school committee standpoint, kind of the creation and the writing and the starting to produce a handbook. Ms. Roach shared with us from Denton Schools a rather comprehensive middle school handbook on grades. So I think I think there's many facets to this, but I think part of it is about communication with the parents. I think it's about educating the school committee, and probably educating teachers as well, right? And I'm not sure all of them have been privy to all of these discussions. And I think that at some point, when that task force working group creates some form of action plan about what does this process look like, and they come to a school committee meeting and they present, and we let people know that there will be a presentation, and if people want to come in and fill the seats or watch the meeting later on tape, they can do that. So I think that's important. And I also think that all parents and the administration and the school committee would be served well by a middle school-wide survey sent to all parents.
Only middle school?
I guess if you want the high school, but you're maybe opening up.
Well, standards-based is elementary.
So the elementary, okay,
Yeah.
elementary.
Okay.
I think that I was probably gearing my concern because people.
High school.
You went to high school? No. So
Have any frame of
elementary,
reference.
huh?
High school has no frame of reference.
Yeah, they
No,
wouldn't know.
I know, I wasn't, I just said initially
Yeah.
middle school, but elementary school and middle school. And I think this is something that if you started to kind of craft questions around the implementation of it, whether parents understand, whether they're getting the feedback that they want, just a whole series of questions. And I think I would request that that survey be brought back to this committee prior to being sent out, so we can review it and make sure that all of our questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Would the survey for elementary school students be a little different than middle school students? Because we're thinking elementary, kindergarten standard-based reporting is a lot different than what we're doing or what's
Right.
being done now in the middle school.
I only wanted to go for the middle school. You
I
guys
would
were
say-
you wanted to add the elementary.
I didn't
If we're going
necessarily
to do the
want to.
lower grades, it may be just the kids going into, but then they wouldn't have a frame of reference.
Right.
So
Right.
maybe,
At a minimum,
whatever you all think, but I think it would make more sense to limit it to the middle school.
I agree.
I'm fine with it going just to the middle school. I think if it did go to the elementary school, I think one of the questions, and this might be a little difficult to manage would be, is your child in middle school or elementary school, both? And then it's difficult to manage.
Or you just
responses.
have two different surveys.
Well, you could do that
I think
too.
that would, listen, my initial thought was
Although then
that this is geared towards the middle school parents.
because the thing is, if you do multiple, then you're asking some parents to do two surveys.
Yeah.
And
I think at this point, focusing on the middle
Middle
school would
school.
probably be, Denise, you had to step out, but we
Sorry.
were talking about doing a survey of all parents in the middle school. A survey that Nancy and her admin team would write, and then we would review prior to sending out.
Okay. For clarification,
Yep.
I had listed it under one of the things the working group would work on and develop, but you're thinking
No, that's fine, as long as it,
comes back to
I'm
the school.
requesting that it comes back
Okay,
to the committee
Yep.
before being sent out.
okay.
And I think the survey going out sooner than later would be helpful, because, and I also think that we should explore the idea, and wouldn't be the first time the district has had to have a parent or parents representative on the committee. I know many hiring processes and other task force and working groups have parent representatives. I think this would be a group that would be well-served having representatives on the committee.
I agree,
about a student
100%. We want to know their concerns.
A student rep?
I mean, it's an
I'll defer
interesting
to the
idea, but
administrator.
yeah.
What?
So it's an interesting idea, but if we're targeting middle school,
They won't do it.
huh?
You don't think they'd do it?
No,
I'm
Would
just
they-
curious, like, what the kids' perception is.
Maybe a
bring them
conversation.
at certain points.
Maybe
to
a
talk about
conversation
it.
with them after, or at a certain, like a focus group with kids.
Okay.
Is that, any more clarification you need, Nancy?
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Yes.
For the survey, I'm wondering if, you had mentioned sooner rather than later, I'm wondering if the survey could be used as a vehicle to maybe solicit volunteers for the working group. I feel like if the working group is the one that authors the survey, that it's going to take some time until that survey will get out there. Because you have to devise the working group, get them together, agree upon that. So I'm wondering if we might be able to move up the timeline of the survey to be able to get some feedback to inform the working group as to what's out there for feedback from the
I don't
parents.
think the working group has to be formed. I mean, your admin team could probably, sitting around the table, come up
Yep.
with, it's not going to be a 40-question survey. It could
Correct.
be 6 or 7 questions.
And maybe one of the questions is, would you be interested in being a part of,
And then if 100 people respond,
Yeah.
yeah, we pick numbers out of a hat.
and should we rename the Clyde Brown School?
But if we solicit
She
on the
missed that.
survey, then we need identifiers for the survey. We need them to identify themselves.
Are we good? Are
Okay,
you guys
or,
good?
or we could, that's a good point. So Mark was saying if we solicit on the survey, then we need them to identify themselves. We could put that
Or reach back
we're
out to
putting,
them.
right, we're putting together a task force.
If you
you're
want to.
interested, please
Contact.
email, and then put the link right there
Which
that they
means-
click, and then they can just go right there. So their survey stays anonymous.
Yep.
But then.
That makes sense.
It
Or,
also means they have to take an extra step, which means they have to
Yes, yeah, really want to
actually
do
take
it.
some initiative other than just clicking
absolutely right.
yes
Yep,
That's
you're
a good point.
absolutely right.
in the moment.
Yep,
They
that's a
have
great
To
point.
fill out a form.
Yeah.
Yep.
you got what you need, Nancy?
Yep.
Okay.
We will develop a working group. Actually, we will send out we will develop a survey
Yep.
for grades 5 through 8 that will include an invitation if they'd like to volunteer for a working group and to get feedback, which we very much want from parents on their experience and perceptions of the standards-based grading process and the report cards. And then from that, we will develop a working group that will have teachers, administrators, parents, potentially a student, or if not,
Student
probably
input.
more appropriate is just have, we can do internal student surveys as well as focus groups. And at least 2 of our goals in the working group can develop more goals are to improve our communication with parents, find out what they're unclear about, et cetera, communicate better, and develop a handbook or a FAQ document that helps clarify all that.
Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone need or request anything else? Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
That's it for the chairman's report. Next is the subcommittee report, the elementary school building committee.
Nothing new to report since last time. So
School still being built?
Nancy, so it's still being built. Nancy had mentioned that faculty has started the process of being able to look at options for FFE, fixtures, furniture, and I forget what E is.
Equipment.
Thank you. E, equipment.
That's good. Good news. It's starting to really,
It's
starting to take shape.
And some of the things now that are happening are starting to involve the school again. So at the very beginning in the planning phase, the teachers and the staff was really active as part of the project. So it's coming back around to the part where they get to kind of re-energize by getting
And
to
the
take a
road
look.
construction has seemed to, it's helped. It's a little easier to get in and out of.
It's a little easier to get in and out of for sure. So, yeah. So big thanks to Millis Police who did those. What's it called?
Detail.
Thank you. Details at the start of school. Yeah. And then next week the committee actually gets to look at the fixtures and colors, and so if you have a color choice, September 18th, Town Hall.
Purple, right?
Wanna
Purple?
see Preferences.
Can the roof be purple?
The art teacher would be very welcome.
Is that it,
Right,
Denise?
that's a good point. That's
good?
Yep.
Okay, correspondence. I don't think we have any correspondence.
Correct.
Any school committee announcements?
No, sir.
No announcements. There's no old business or new business. We are going to go into a working session to discuss school committee strategic planning. We will not be coming back. We will not be going into executive session. We will not be coming back into open session.
We're not going into executive?
No, we were able to.
We were able to handle it in executive session earlier.
Yeah.
So, do I have a motion to go into working session, not to return to open session?
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. See you on the 25th.